Welcome back to Game Does Play Games, where we play games while talking game design, and we are still playing Sid Meier's Civilization VI, because I love it so much.
It was really good, actually. We had a moment before we started playing this where we watched the intro cutscene, and I was like, I wish I had just seen that before. Then I would have been a lot more inspired to buy this game.
It is so inspiring. It makes you proud to be a human. So we have a code of laws now, which is like, you know, a big thing if you know anything about ancient history and all that jazz. So what that allows me to do is now make a government, which was totally not a thing in previous Civ games. Now I can make a government. That's awesome.
That is actually kind of cool.
We have my basic government, which is just starts off as a chiefdom. And normally a chiefdom gives you a military policy and economic policy, and that's what you get. We get a wild card one because we're Greece, and we're good at, voting on things.
God King.
So, these two right here are military policies, and these two are economic policies.
Do you know that based on the color?
The color. Yeah. However, the symbol in the background. So
that's
these
fair.
These have diamonds. These have, sword and shields.
Oh, I get it.
You can work with
that. I see it
Yeah,
now.
it's cool. So I could go, double experience for recon units, which are scouts. But I don't have any scouts right now, so that one's not very good for me. Or I get +5 combat bonus against barbarians. Well, that sounds good.
Can you change these later?
Yes,
Ooh.
all the time. And that's what makes culture so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it was set in stone, that actually it would just kind of be like another trait tree.
Yeah.
Or skill tree or whatever
but it
they're
really
called.
sets it different from like the tech tree and all that stuff. So then I could do like urban planning, increase production in all cities. That's all right. I only have one city, but +1 production is pretty nice. Or I get +1 faith and +1 gold. Well, I'm not generating any faith right now, and I know, according to this religion thing over here, it says once I get 25 faith, I get a pantheon, which is like another superpower. So then, yeah, I think I'll start generating some faith because I'm not doing it any other way.
But it says when you're in the capital. Are you in the capital?
No, the capital itself generates 1 gold and 1 faith.
Oh.
So it's just automatically that capital is going to be generating those.
Okay.
For me. Now, if I had a second city, it wouldn't be benefiting from God King.
Gotcha.
But
that
it
makes
would be
sense.
benefiting from urban planning. So there's that. Also, I have this additional policy right here. So I'm also going to choose +1 production because I'm Greece and screw you. That's what I get. So we confirm the policy. Bam. Every time I get an upgrade on a civic tree here, any of these, I get to change my policies for free.
Oh, wow.
But
okay, well, it's good that it's somewhat limiting then.
It is. I mean, I can actually, like, next turn, it's going to take me a while to get my next civic here. But next turn, I'll just say this one for now. I could choose to change my policies again, but it would cost me money. So you can do it at any point, but it would cost you. It's just better to wait for your civics to boost.
Yeah. And
doing that, you can actually start building things based off of your civics. Because let's say in a little bit, once I complete craftsmanship, I'll get 30% production toward builders. Let's say I want to build a lot of builders in all of my cities. And it's going to take 8 turns before my next civic is complete. So what I could do is, bam, I get craftsmanship. I change, I put, this Elcom into production toward builders. And I could, I didn't realize I could do that.
Did you right click it?
Yeah.
Learning things left and right.
Oh my god, that makes my life so much easier. I just learned a thing. Okay. I love accidents.
Although, I guess there's a lot to say about even just discovery in this game, even just through the interface.
There's so many things. Oh, we haven't even got to the lenses.
Actually, that is something I want to talk about at some point, but yeah, continue what you're saying.
So, like, I could be like, all right, cool, I'll increase my production toward builders, and be like, oh, cool, I do that. It's going to take all my cities 8 turns to build a builder. Fantastic, because the moment I'm done building those builders, my civic is complete, and I can change and no longer have to worry about this policy anymore. So your civics now actually determine what you should be building and when.
It makes a lot of sense, too, because it kind of makes sure that your goals are in line with what you're building and what your government policies are.
Absolutely, and that in itself
not building
helps
but working
you
toward
determine what your play style is going to be, at least for that civ that you're playing at the time.
That's cool. I think that's actually pretty smart.
So Settlements, building new cities, way different than it was in Civ V. In Civ V, you had this overall happiness meter. And so it'd be like every city reduces your happiness by 4, and then if you went negative, your people would stop producing things, and eventually they would rebel, and it sucked. So because of that, you wanted to balance your happiness, and you didn't want to build a lot of cities, because if you had too many cities, you get super unhappy. In this one, this game doesn't care about that nearly as much. As long as you keep getting those luxury resources, you can keep building cities. The only real downside to building cities is that it takes some time to make a settler, and that you reduce your housing capacity by 1 when you do it. So my housing capacity is 3 out of 6 right now. And if I made a settler right this moment, it would go down to 2 out of 6 because that civilian, theoretically, that citizen is leaving and packing up to go somewhere else. So here's a little, another interesting thing about the difference between the two games and all that jazz is that this builder, you normally use to, you would use to improve tiles, but you can also use them to remove features. And when you do that, let's say I remove this woods, it says that I get plus 23 production toward whatever I'm working on. Now, I can't remove the feature yet because I don't have mining.
Right, that makes sense.
Once I have mining, it allows me to chop down forests. So I've actually picked that on purpose because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just park my builder in here. He has 1 more charge left. Oh, no, he has 2. Why do I have 2?
You only used him for the
I didn't build my quarry. I'm stupid. Oops. Anyway, so you should build a quarry. But then after that, I would have only 1 charge left. And so hopefully by the time he gets back to this forest, mining will be done. I'll chop down the forest, and whatever I'm working on will get huge bonuses.
Nice.
Now, that being said, I could also build a lumber mill in that forest later on. So it's like a benefit now or later kind of deal. So it really depends on how you want to build. But I am building that settler really early because I want to build a second city. Not really sure where, but I'd probably over here by the Cliffs of Dover because I want it.
I really like, by the way, how they represent areas that you've discovered but can no longer see. Like,
oh, the map is so cool now.
It's gorgeous.
Like, so this is for, if you can't tell, like, this is all undiscovered. It's as if an old map. Look at this. You can even see the
It is yet to be mapped out.
It's great. And there's like sea monsters that will show up on there. It actually looks like a map. You see the background. It's really clever.
If you go over there, does a sea monster actually exist?
No, it just kind of disappears with the map.
This is an age of mythology, I know.
Yes, let's say this is not Beyond Earth. But then the places you have explored will still look mappy, but are clearly not visible to you at the moment.
Yeah, it's like they have been inked out on the map. And have yet to be updated.
This could be changed, technically.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think that's a great aesthetic choice. It's so much better than just, like, covering it with fog of war or...
We've talked about how I hate that term because it's so misused nowadays.
Yeah, it's abstracted from what it really was supposed to mean. And, in fact... whoever coined the term might have even been misusing it.
It's possible.
I don't know where it came from.
I think it was originally from gunpowder use. When there was so much gunpowder, it literally would fog up the field and people wouldn't be able to see. But I don't know why it was used in games in the way it was. Whatever.
Yeah.
I can't build my... Did I? Oh,
did he spend his action
yet? Duh. All right, so he's just gonna skip his turn, and we'll come back to it. Like 1 turn loss, whatever. It's not a big deal. That's another thing I like about Civ. It's like if you mess up by 1 turn, usually it's not a deal. You can mess up by 10 turns sometimes and be like, meh. But on the other hand, it could actually matter because if I'm doing 10 turns better than you, then that could steamroll into being a much bigger deal. Crossing that river. So once I build this settler, I'll start talking about expanding and what that means to the game. Opening my tech tree, I'm just going to finish off pottery because that way I have all the 3 basic ones. Pottery allows me to harvest wheat and rice, and I can start building a granary in all my cities, which give me +2 housing. If you remember me talking about that, +2 housing is a big deal. Kapow. Sailing is advanced.
So here's a question for you. How significant does your playstyle early game affect the late game?
It depends on what your play style is. If your play style is aggressive, then you want to pick an early game Civ to match that. Because if you're like, I'm really aggressive, who are you playing? France. So I don't get a good unit until the Renaissance era. So I'm just gonna angrily stare at you with my warriors until then, and then so it's not really doing you a lot of good. Like, you don't need special units to win by any means, but they are sometimes very helpful. Gorgo gets special. They get the hoplites, which replace spearmen. Here, we can actually check it out. So they get hoplites, which replace spearmen. Spearmen are normally. Oh, here we go. They're normally right here. And they are the exact same unit in that they have 25 strength. The difference is that hoplites get a plus 10, so their strength goes from 25 to 35 when they're next to each other because they work in a phalanx.
Oh, okay.
So it makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So that 35 is really good.
Man, and that level of detail is so insane, which kind of brings me back to the thing that I wanted to talk about, is that this game has so much discoverability. Like, you might not think it right because it's a strategy game, so all of its information is laid pretty clear to the players. And in fact, when you want to see how certain units work, it lets you just move forward and look at it. So you can you could technically plan your entire strategy from the very beginning of the game. But there's so much information that it's almost inconceivable that most players would do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is learning as you go and then kind of building up strategies. And then as you play, another round, you kind of discover new ways to approach things. And so I think it's really interesting because this is a great game that represents all of its information with complete transparency, but yet still has more discovery than a lot of games have in general.
Yeah, it's so transparent that the things that aren't obvious frustrate people because generally there's no reason for them to not be obvious. There's it's silly little things like Montezuma he's so far my favorite one that I played yet. And he has a unit that when it captures an enemy unit, it has a chance to turn them into a builder. You enslave them. You beat people and then you enslave them. And then you turn them into builders and then they waste away. And that's how you live your life. It's hilarious.
I mean, hilarious from an abstract perspective, but
yes. Yes. But so that's how they function. But forgot what I was getting at with this.
Discovery?
But discovering, it doesn't tell you what the percentage chance of converting a unit is.
Ah, okay.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, is that good? Is that a good percentage?
It's hard
it could have been 10%. I think it's 66.
It's hard to calculate that as a player. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it could just simply tell you. There's other things like I think maybe Gorgo now it tells you like you get 50% of culture when you beat, or 50% culture of the strength of the unit you beat. In Civ V, it didn't tell you that. It would just say bonus culture when you beat somebody, and you're like, what? Why are you telling me things?
That's interesting too, because I feel like most games that kind of utilize the style, I think the philosophy is that there are certain things that should not be presented to the player. Some things should be partially random or partially unknown, otherwise the game is too calculated. But I feel like as the iterations of Civ have gone on, they've only given the player more and more information, which is interesting because it's so counterintuitive to traditional game design. Traditional game design says, streamline things as much for the player as possible. They don't need to know everything because otherwise they'll be overwhelmed. Which is true in some cases, but Civ does such a good job at not overwhelming the player.
Most of the time, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that's been my barrier to entry for this, is that there's so much going on that it's like, I can't spend the time to figure it out.
This way, it's just like, here's a tiny little city. Just work your way into it. How do spies work? Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out when we get there.
And I think it speaks a lot to the natural progression of the game, because they start you off with such like simple things. There's not a lot going on in the very beginning. And that's why I asked about does your playstyle in the beginning affect the late game? Because it's so simple that I imagine that most starting playstyles tend to be relatively similar. You do X, Y, and Z on your first 3 turns, no matter who you're playing, and then from there it starts to deviate.
Absolutely. Like right now, I haven't. And it's small things too, right? I haven't built a monument yet, and what that does is it gives me extra culture. So I'm generating like no culture. If I were a different player or a different civ, I might have pushed straight for that, so I can get these things, these civics as fast as possible, and that would change the way that this guy would play and all that stuff. And so yeah, there's little deviations that completely change the way your game unravels. So last thing I want to talk about in this episode, settlers. So I finally built one. So it has reduced my housing capacity, but in 4 turns, I'll get another one. So it'll recover. And so now that I might, this kind of sucks for you. Sorry. So I'm my settler right now. And God, why are you, it's like it's double clicking or something. All right. So my settler, when I click him, it'll show me good locations that I can choose for my settlement.
Oh, so is it like the more green it is, the better?
Because green, the more green it is, it represents fresh water.
Is that green on the sides?
God.
Or is that bluish?
All right, so this is all green. This is a light green. Oh my God, I hate this mouse. I'm sorry, everybody who's watching. So yeah, green. This is white, which is bad, but not as bad as this red, etc.
Presumably because it's so close to your other city.
Yes. Actually, that might be it. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the red is showing that you're like within 3 tiles of the city, because cities will naturally expand up to 3 tiles away. So you generally don't want to be within. Yeah, you don't want to overlap. But the things you want to look for are the green, because that represents fresh water. You know, my housing capacity is 6 in this city. Well, that's because I'm next to fresh water, a river. If I weren't there, if I were up here, for instance, my housing capacity might honestly only be at a 2.
Oh, okay. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah, so you want to build near those rivers. Before it was just really helpful if you were. Now it's like you want to be near rivers or lakes or oasis, but if you're not near one of those,
you need water for your people.
You need water to survive. And then in addition to that, you also want to look at luxury resources and strategic resources. So over here, there's a source of tobacco. Well, I'm not gonna, 1, 2, 3, I'm not gonna be able to reach that tobacco with Sparta here. So I want that luxury resource because that offers an amenity to my cities so that they'll stay happy. So that's really important. In addition, it's fresh water and it's fairly close to my other ones. So actually up here is a really good location. Down here is also a potential. I don't know why it thinks it's that good of a potential. There's some forest.
Yeah, all the surrounding areas are not so good.
Yeah, I'm not really impressed with that one. I'm actually more of a fan of over here. So I don't know. Let's see. We'll go. What kind of tiles are these real quick? These are grasslands, some mountains, and then we get into tundra. So we don't want to get spread too far to get into the tundra because it's generally not helpful. So I'm going to say that he should probably be, we'll go right here. It would be nice if I were near the ocean too. Okay, you know what? We'll go kapow. 1, 2. No, we'll just do it here. I'll build a harbor if I need. So, before, you would need to build your city next to the ocean in order to build ships. Now, that's fine if you're not next to the ocean because you can just build a harbor district, which allows you. So your city could be here, and then 1, 2, 3 spaces away, build a harbor right there. Well, bam. Or here, or here. Bam, you'd be able to build a harbor and make ships even though you weren't near the ocean.
It's a little less, or it's a lot less penalizing than it was.
A lot less penalizing. God, it was cruel before, because you're like, great, I want to be near the ocean, but I also want to be near these mountains, and then I hate everything.
It comes at a huge loss, right? Because then you can't place your city in the most optimal place.
Slinging stones.
Just at the cost of getting to the water.
It was cruel. It was really cruel is what it was. So that's basically, am I gonna get him? No.
I've always liked that they
like 1 hit point.
But I do love how they represent how much health is left in that unit by showing how many characters are left.
Yeah, as they die down, you'll see them like them die off.
Do they get more characters if they heal, or does it like hit a capacity where they can't heal X amount they only have,
No,
like,
when
one
I
dude
heal,
left?
it'll just kind of recover. So right now they're at 4. If he dealt some damage to me, I might go down to like 2 of them. But then if I heal, it'll go back up to 4. It's just a representation. The scout always only has one guy because the idea is there's only one of them.
Oh, that makes
or
sense.
Whatever. And he has 1 hit point, and it frustrates the hell out of me. It happens way too often. So there's that, right? I'm building this monument. It's going to require 6. So I have 22 out of 60 production toward that monument. This is where we get crunchy, right? 22 out of 60 production toward the monument. And I have this builder here. And if I remove this forest, I'll get 23 production toward what I'm working on. And
Bam!
Now down to 2 actions. So, or 2 turns. So, and he fades away.
Bye, guy.
So, like, you can do things like that to try to ramp up. Before the patch that just happened a little bit ago, builders were able to move forests from anywhere on the map, and then it would just send that production toward the nearest city. So you would just go around just destroying all the forests and building wonders left and right, and making like 10 cities on the map, and nobody could stop you.
Yeah, that sounds pretty broken.
It was a little. He's cornered. I'm gonna get him. Oh, I'm gonna get him.
Do it.
He's got nowhere to go.
No way.
So that's about that for this play.
Yeah.
We're way out of time.
Yeah, we're way over time. How about you ask a question of the day? Got one?
What have we talked about?
A lot.
I just
Talked about a lot.
Rambling on here.
I mean, we were talking a lot about the discoverability.
Yeah.
That was at least my highlight for this episode, because I think it's fascinating how they handle it, and it just kind of comes naturally, right? It's not like they're forcing it, like, this will be so discoverable because of this. They're just like, here's all this stuff.
How do you feel the transparency of the system affects the appeal of the discovery of the game? I know that was a really complicated way of saying that. I felt like I was being really hipster and went to college for that, but that was the best way to ask that.
I mean, I think that's good. Maybe it's because I'm hipster and went to school for game design, but...
Answer that question. Vote on the things above. Thanks for watching. We'll probably do one more because I'm going to do a rant and then we're done.
Ooh, okay.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.